In just a few months, David Morara Kebaso has become a national sensation in Kenya. Bravely auditing government projects in his Vampire Diaries series, he offers civic education while engaging with the people and giving them a platform to voice their issues. His videos have garnered millions of views, inspiring people across different age demographics to audit incomplete and repeatedly launched projects in their respective areas.
It was on a Monday. President, together with Governor James Agre Orengo, with CS Owalo, they were here. As former US President Ronald Reagan once said, the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things, he is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. Since the Gen Z protests, Morara has been a significant force in civic education, inspiring many to engage in civic education from matatus and other public spaces.
Kwa kila mtu mwenye anataka na huko kwa mtandao najiita grandson of Mau. Juu tumeona civic education ili hata ujue the role of an MP and article 94.
Bila natafuta kazi yako na kazi, kupata kazi ni kazi. Kuna wale wameandikwa kazi ya kufuta watu kazi, wa kupeana kazi kama Sudi ni illiterate. Ndio maana bado hatujaandikwa.
Chants of Ruto must go echo in various places, from events to clubs, as a large part of the country is more politically charged than ever before, with Morara being a major factor in this shift.
Now, the Gen Z movement is not leaderless anymore. People have been born in this country who are leaders of integrity and that can presume power.
However, his meteoric rise has brought numerous challenges and he has undoubtedly made enemies along the way. On September 22nd, his car was hit by a man present at his gathering who fled the scene and abandoned the vehicle. Investigations into the car's ownership led to a dead end. A week later, he was arrested by the DCI, only to have charges dropped. Additionally, he faced physical attacks from goons during what was supposed to be a public participation exercise at the Bomas of Kenya. As Benjamin Burumba once said, "Each time I want to fight for African rights, I only use one hand because the other hand is busy trying to keep away Africans who are fighting me." This quote perfectly encapsulates the situation Morara Kebaso finds himself in. In this episode, we'll explore the incredible story of Morara Kebaso, his political heritage, his rise to prominence, how he has become a beacon of hope for many Kenyans, and whether he can actually become the president of Kenya. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories from Kenya. In an interview with Kiss, he asserted that he was born into leadership.
There are people who get money and decide to be leaders, and there are leaders who are born into it.
This is because his great-grandfather, John Kebaso, was the first senator of Kisii who was assassinated, and his grandfather, George Morara, served as an MP for West Mugirango. George Morara's life was also tragically cut short in a suspicious road accident just 48 hours after he publicly demanded the government explain the whereabouts of Nahashon Jenga, the man convicted of the assassination of Tom Mboya. He saw Nahashon Jenga alive in Lusaka, Zambia during a parliamentary tour meeting. Yet 1 year prior, the government reported that he was sentenced to death and hanged. He was outspoken and was even talked about as being a future president only 9 months into parliament. He died at the young age of 34. Morara Kebaso is now actively risking his life trying to fight the government and call for accountability. He knows what he is doing is dangerous and could get him killed just like the people he is named after, but he wants to do it anyway.
But I also know that I'm alive for a season. I'm not going to be here forever. I'll die someday. People die every day. But before I die, I must do something. Lazima ni inject.
Lazima.
Lazima.
But before he ever did any of that, he was just a young boy from Nyamira, Kisii. He was good academically as he was the 5th best student in KCPE in Nyanza province and went to one of the oldest schools in the country, Maseno, where he was expelled. He switched to a village school but still managed to score an A, and no one has ever gotten an A from that school ever since he left. He was also good at music and drama, winning multiple national competitions, skills that he still uses as he does really good impressions of President William Ruto while doing his civic education.
Na kwa hii finance bill inakuja, nitaweka tena pesa ingine ya hii barabara ili hawa mama mboga na hawa watu makanga na hawa vinyozi na wale wabeba waweze kusaidika na manufaa ya hii barabara. Sijui kama tunaelewana.
After high school, he worked as a waiter at Ufanisi Resort, where he ended up serving the first governor of Kisii County, James Ongwae, who took an interest in him. Ongwae connected him to his PA, Walter Mongare, also known as Nyambane, and he secured a job as a social media analyst. In this role, he was responsible for gathering information about public sentiment online, identifying issues, and understanding people's demands. He eventually left the job after the governor provided him with a substantial bursary to join Kenyatta University, where he became heavily involved in student leadership. A key moment in his journey was when he exposed the school administration. There was money allocated as compensation for students being evicted for renovations. He allegedly incited a strike, resulting in over 4,000 students receiving 21,000 each in compensation.
1,000, I said no. They said 15,000, I said no. They said then you can go on strike. Then we went on strike. Then they said no, let's talk. Let's make it 21,000. And yeah, everybody got 21,000 in their account.
This run-in with the authority wasn't smooth sailing. He was arrested for incitement and served 47 days in jail or had to pay a 1 million Kenya shilling bond. The charges were later dropped and he returned to complete his program. As early as 2017, he was already making posts on Twitter mocking the launching of projects by the Jubilee regime. I also found another post on his Facebook where he's sitting in a classroom donated in Kajiado just a year ago in 2023. The drive to hold leaders accountable has always been there. Speaking of leaders, President Ruto prides himself on being a hustler, but Morara Kebaso truly embodies this spirit. Not only did he earn good tips as a waiter, which speaks to his excellent service, but he also sold salt for K-Salt as a merchandiser, taught mathematics and physics at Kabero Secondary School, and sold avocados from Kisii to his single room in Kawangware, where rent was 1,800 Kenya shillings. During his time in university, he did online writing, sold chapatis, and even tried to sell insurance. He ran a wines and spirits business before deciding it doesn't align with his Christian values. After university, he started a milk business in Rongai, where he began life with his wife, whom he married at 21. By 22, he had bought his first car. By 24, he was driving a Prado. He bought a house at 26, and as of 2024, at the age of 28, he has 2 children. Despite his youth, his life experiences make it seem like he has lived multiple lives already. Currently, his biggest venture is Morara Home Furniture, which has multiple branches and employs over 85 Kenyans. He also has a small YouTube page with 7 subscribers where he sells property in Kamakis. You have to give him his flowers. The man has truly tried everything. Following the June 25th protests in Kenya, which were sparked by opposition to the Finance Bill 2024, the situation escalated with police using excessive force, resulting in multiple fatalities and injuries. The pressure on President Ruto and his regime was mounting. In response, President Ruto reshuffled his cabinet, dismissing several cabinet secretaries and appointing new ones from the opposition to form what he termed as a broad-based government, or as some might say, a bread-based government. Around this time, Morara began creating skits, doing funny impressions of President Ruto while adorned in a kaunda suit from the sunroof of his Land Cruiser Prado. These comedic skits quickly built him an initial audience on TikTok. In July 2024, a special Auditor General report revealed that the Kenyan government could not account for 1.1 trillion in loans between 2010 and 2021, as there were no projects to show for the money. Morara paid close attention to these reports and began investigating how some of the money was misappropriated. He asked his audience to inform him of any projects that were launched but not completed, pledging to visit those sites and confirm his suspicions. This led to the now famous Vampire Diaries miniseries, where he visited the ground and exposed the projects that were launched and relaunched with nothing to show except the big black plaques. He would usually stand next to these plaques and clap, noting that they were more like tombstones for the projects. Conducting these audits at a time when the government was willing to deploy the Kenya Defense Forces to intimidate protesters, with people being abducted left, right and center and bodies showing up in quarries, Morara kept the movement alive. He fought for accountability by living his comfortable life and initially using his own money, time and car to travel the country and expose the corruption. He became an instant sensation, gaining traction online, doing interviews and podcasts, and appearing on traditional media. In less than 3 months, Morara Kebaso became one of the most followed people in Kenya. As of the making of this video, he has over 600,000 followers on TikTok, over 300,000 on Facebook, and over 260 on X, formerly Twitter. Even though Morara was doing well for himself, he couldn't sustain it financially and requested support from his followers. By being directly funded by those who believe in him, Morara is pioneering a shift in Kenya's campaign financing model to align more closely with practices seen in more mature democracies. He advocates for a crowdsourced approach, aiming to raise campaign funds through small contributions from a broad base of supporters. This contrasts with the traditional Kenyan practice, where politicians often rely on handouts to sway voters.
We are with you according to that statement. Yes. Hakuna haja ya kupeana pesa ati juu ndio upewe kura. Yes.
Morara has a track record of delivering on promises, such as fueling his car and traveling around the country to expose stalled projects, acquiring a new car and a sound system, and fixing the incomplete house that was donated to be his base of operations. People can see that the money being donated is going to a good cause. However, the lack of transparency and accountability in fund usage is already leading to skepticism and eroding public trust, with some saying he's turning into a beggar, while others claim he is a conman. One thing I've noticed about Morara is his desire to solve problems using first principles thinking. For example, Kenya has a bad leadership problem. Well, where do bad leaders come from? From the people, the electorate. So how can we make the electorate better? Civic education. The people have been very receptive towards him, and in a short time, he has been able to draw larger and larger crowds to listen to him in various areas. For example, Mbeere North MP Geoffrey Ruku was blocked when trying to interrupt Morara's meeting and was booed and chased away by a crowd gathered in Embu town for Morara Kebaso's civic education event. Not only did they block the MP, but they also engaged with Morara and even gave him some money to fuel his car and continue his good work.
Hii ni mafuta ya gari. Sasa sipumziki. Kupumzika ni mbinguni. Wameniongeza shilingi 100. Na hawa ni watu wa bodaboda bwana. Wameniongeza 100 ingine. Kenya ni nyumbani. Kenya ni home. Wameniongeza 50 bob. Wacha niwaambie watu wa Embu sitalala.
While civic education is crucial, the battle for new leadership is inherently political.
Some people thought that this will always be a joke, where we just come on camera, expose corruption and projects where money has been stolen. And mind you, we are exposing to people who don't care about being exposed. They are used to being corrupt, and their vote base doesn't care that they are corrupt. So they thought that we will stop at just exposing. Oh, my friend, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to disappoint you. It will not stop there. They are now surprised that it is getting serious. Wanashtuka kwamba it's getting serious, that these youths, they're actually serious. They can organize into a political structure and even take power.
In October 2024, Morara Kebaso officially launched the inclusion of National Justice, Economic and Civic Transformation Party, INJECT, urging young leaders of integrity to join him.
Now, the Gen Z movement is not leaderless anymore.
By declaring that the Gen Z movement was no longer leaderless, he essentially put a target on his back. The opposition feels threatened by his presence, influencers see him as someone who's occupying their space, and the government is definitely not a fan of the Vampire Diaries. He was first arrested in his office in Kawasukari, Nairobi. The arrest, conducted by DCI officers, involved the confiscation of his personal belongings, including phones and a laptop. He was released the following day and received like a hero, addressing a massive crowd of supporters in the heart of the CBD. After the police disrupted the gathering with tear gas, he went home with his supporters. Within the same week, Morara made a significant mistake during the public participation exercise at the Bomas of Kenya regarding the proposed impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. He was brutally attacked by goons when he attempted to address the crowd. There were red flags from the beginning, as they initially didn't want him in and only allowed him to enter without his entourage, leaving him vulnerable. He himself admitted that going there in the first place was a big mistake. The irony of it all is that he was then arrested and blamed for what happened. I'm glad it wasn't serious, but all those actions only served to legitimize him further. It shows that some people genuinely feel threatened by him. It was a wake-up call that when fighting corruption, corruption will fight back. Morara Kebaso is undeniably brave, and I fully support him. I see him as a leader, even if he isn't the finished article yet. He has earned my respect for what he has already accomplished. I know he will make mistakes, we all do, and I don't expect him to be perfect. He is human after all. But if he surrounds himself with mature figures like Okiya Mtakta or Richard Onyonka, amongst other leaders of integrity, those who have consistently stood for the people and against corruption, he could build a formidable team. The youth's unwavering support will also be crucial to his success, as many youth are now more politically charged than ever before. That said, I'm also realistic. The over 1 trillion Kenya shillings flagged in the Auditor General's report as misappropriated didn't just disappear. There are powerful beneficiaries of this corrupt system, and they won't be easy to dislodge. Kenyan politics is also deeply rooted in tribalism, and it won't be easy for Morara to overcome this entrenched system in just 3 years. Unseating a figure like William Ruto will be a monumental task, given that he has never lost an election. However, history has shown us that what seems impossible can become reality. No one thought the events of June 25th would happen until they did. So I never say never. Regardless of what happens next, Morara is already making history. His courage and willingness to challenge the government when he could have easily chosen a more comfortable life are commendable. He has my utmost respect and support. Many in his position wouldn't dare take the risk he has. My only advice to him would be to remember that ships don't sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets in them. He should try and not get too caught up with the negativity. He should accept that no matter how noble the cause, not everyone will support him or be on his side, and that's okay. But that's just my perspective. Let me know what you think about Morara Kebaso in the comments below. Would you vote for him?